We just heard in the gospel an account of how Jesus met this man Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus was a blind man and a beggar, very poor, sitting on the side of the road, crying out, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." First, the crowd tried to keep him quiet, but then when Jesus says, "Bring him to me," they encouraged him to come to Jesus. So he comes before Jesus, and Jesus says to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" It's a good question, isn't it? So I'm going to ask you now, what do you want Jesus to do for you? Just kind of see if you can come up with an answer for yourself. It's too late to ask for winning the $1.5 billion lottery, so okay, really, for what counts, what matters? What do you want Jesus to do for you? Well, as we know, Bartimaeus said, "I want to see." Now, you would think that Jesus would already know that. Duh, I'm blind. But he asks him that question so he might claim what he wants. Because we cannot assume that people want to see. I'm not just talking about physical sight. I'm talking about more of a deeper spiritual insight. Sometimes we just don't want to see. On Friday, I heard on the radio that there are about 8 million plus people who are about to die of starvation in Yemen. That was bad enough. Then yesterday morning, I opened up the paper, and there's a picture of a 7-year-old with a skeleton with skin on it. I didn't want to see that. I don't want to see all the political ads that we have. I'm pretty quick. I got the clicker. I'm pretty quick at the mute button. But they're getting smarter. Maybe they think people do that. So now we get these things about don't vote for any Democrat or don't vote for any Republican. Excuse me? You don't want to see any good in somebody who disagrees with you? Your opposite party doesn't have one good person in it? I don't want to see, is what we're saying. And isn't it true that sometimes we don't want to see our own faults and failings? So much so that we always, well, maybe not always, but often look for somebody else to blame because we don't want to see the truth of our own faults. And I could go on with this. But Jesus asked Bartimaeus, "What do you want to see?" And he said, "What do you want from me?" And he says, "I want to see." He had already seen spiritually. He's one of the few people in the Gospels who say this, Jesus, Son of David. He recognized who he was even when he was physically blind, but he had that spiritual insight. We too can be people, because of our faith, who can see better, who want to see. Do you want to see? Do you want to see what's true in life? I want to see a little more truth. A lot more truth. Do we want to see the kind of life that God calls us to? As Jesus says, an abundant life, living life fully. You want to see that kind of life that Jesus has planned for us? Do we want to see what we can do in our place in the world to make a difference? Do we want to see that? Because in faith, we can all see that, because there's nobody in here who doesn't have something to give, to offer to another. As long as we're drawing breath, there is something we can do. God is calling us to see our place in this world, to make a positive difference. So, thinking on that, I've asked a young man in our midst named Michael Balko, he's one of our young adults, to reflect a little bit about what he has seen and how he has seen Jesus call him to be more involved to make more of his life. Michael.
Thank you, Father. A priest is serving a pancake breakfast one Sunday, and two young boys are first in line, arguing over who gets the first pancake. The priest sees this as a teachable moment and tells the boys, if Jesus were here, he would let the other person get the first pancake. The two boys got quiet, pondering the priest's wisdom. Then the two boys turned to each other and said, "You be Jesus." It's hard being like Jesus. Like the two boys fighting over the pancake, we often want others to be Jesus, so we don't have to. My name is Michael Balko. I attended St. Bonaventure for the first time last year and became a member a month later at a new parishioner sign-up after Mass. I was born and raised in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I decided to go to college at St. John's University here in Minnesota. Why Minnesota? Well, it's a little warmer. Growing up Catholic, my family went to Mass weekly. Our Mass of choice was Saturday night at 5:30. Growing up, my parents set an example for me and my brothers by serving at Mass as ushers and Eucharistic ministers. When we got to an age where we could serve at Mass, there was an expectation that we would serve, and we did. Going to Mass wasn't a passive experience, it was an active one. As my brothers and I got older, we became altar servers, lectors, Eucharistic ministers, and ushers. While growing up, we weren't always excited to go to Mass. However, we knew why we went. We went to serve. By stepping out of the pew, Mass becomes more purposeful and engaging. The servant and stewardship lifestyle that my parents taught me followed me to college and here to St. Bonaventure. Soon after joining the parish, I inquired about a young men's Bible study. It just so happened that earlier that month, two other young men had asked that same question. The parish office put us all in contact, and the young men's group, now known as Vanguard, was born. After that, it didn't take long for me to discover that there was help needed at Martin Luther Care Center. They give communion services on Sundays. I signed up to be on a rotating schedule. However, I found myself returning every Sunday, even when I wasn't scheduled. There's an elderly lady who I see there every week who grasps my hand in both of hers, looks me in the eyes, and tells me, "Thank you for being here." For me, taking an hour out of my Sunday is nothing. But to her, it means so much more. Later on, a visiting priest came and gave a powerful homily on the power and importance of adoration. I grabbed a sign-up card in the pew, and soon I was on the schedule to spend an hour with Jesus each week. As Vanguard grew, we began volunteering at parish events, serving at dinners and celebrations in Ambrose Hall. As I continued to become more involved, I found that I was much happier. Working as a teacher, it's easy to find purpose during the workday, but giving time here at St. Bonaventure has given me a purpose outside of my job. It feels good to serve others. What started as a Bible study and an adoration hour has turned into helping with the youth group, serving on parish council, and teaching religious education. Getting involved doesn't need to happen all at once. It starts with opening our eyes from blindness and seeing a need and filling it. And Jesus makes it easier for us by calling us to himself. Just like in today's gospel, Jesus knows when and how we are blind. He asks us what we want him to do, and our answer should always be, "Jesus, I want to see." My parents gave me a great example of not being blind in ways that I can help. And as a middle school teacher, I use my faith daily to help young teens see opportunities to shine in today's world. A priest I know back in Alaska defines holiness as active participation in the lives of others. We don't need to do something extraordinary to be saints. We just need to actively participate in the lives of others to live with holiness. It can be easy to be blind to the needs of others, but we are blessed to be in a parish that offers so many wonderful opportunities to answer the call of Jesus to be holy. We have service opportunities for feeding those in needs, like Loaves and Fishes, St. Vincent de Paul Food Shelf, and Feed My Starving Children. There are ministries to build up the faith in the community of our own parish, such as Wine, Vanguard, the Alive Committee, and RCIA, just to name a few. We also hold events that bring together the greater community for fellowship, like our famous Fall Festival and our fish fries. There are over 90 ministries here at St. Bonaventure, so there are plenty of needs waiting to be filled. I encourage each one of you to consider looking around the parish for needs and respond to Jesus' call with, "I want to see." Responding to Jesus has turned St. Bonaventure into more than my parish. It's now my community and my home. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. You notice in the gospel that after Jesus cured Bartimaeus, he said, "Go your way." And really, he says that's us. Go your way. But Bartimaeus could see that Jesus was the way. So then he says, and so then he followed Jesus on the way. We're all called to live by faith and to walk the way of Jesus Christ. And we do that in part by serving others. If you're a registered member of the parish, you have received or will receive a letter from me, which is about stewardship and also has a list of things that we can do for time, talent, as well as treasure. I ask you to look at that, to see where it is that you can fit in. Someone might say, "Oh, I can't do anything but pray." Works for me. Put me on your list. And then send that in and saying, "I'm in." Active participation is where I belong in this parish. Because Christ has given us faith and a way to see how we can make our lives more abundant by serving others.